Next up, Vijayant Rai, country leader BFSI Microsoft India, is in conversation with Vyshak Venugopalan, Director Solution Consulting Adobe India, as they explore turning artificial intelligence to actionable intelligence. And how do you get data-driven financial insights that enable firms to accelerate loyalty, growth, and also profitability? We're also taking a look at how Adobe and Microsoft are partnering to make this real for their customers.
Hello, my name is Vijayant Rai. I head Microsoft's BFSI business. Today, we are in unprecedented times where we've seen a massive amount of infusion of technology and digital across industries, both in India and globally. It's been a time where we've seen banking and finance companies come to the forefront of adopting technology and digital for transformation. Essentially, transformation around creating differentiated customer experiences for their customers, for empowering their employees, using data for creating intelligent data organizations, and using, again, technology for both risk and compliance and security. But probably the biggest area where we've seen a massive infusion of digital today is around the area of customer experience. We've seen customers in the period of the pandemic using technology to reach out to customers in different ways, which they never did earlier, to use technology to completely reimagine their sales and service journeys. So a massive amount of technology has been infused by FSI organizations, both in banking and insurance companies, for creating differentiated customer experiences. It is indeed my pleasure today to have Vyshak Venugopalan from Adobe. He's the director consulting over there and an expert in the area of customer experience. And we'd be having a quick fireside chat to get his views on the area specific for today's discussion, which is customer experience. Vyshak, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Vijayant. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for the partnership.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vyshak. And probably, without any further delay, I'll jump into the first area which came to my mind where I thought I'll get your thoughts was that Adobe is at the forefront of creating different customer experiences. When you look at the opportunity today and the future, what comes to mind? And probably if you can, sort of tag that into what we have all gone through pre and post pandemic, that'll be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it's very interesting. The opportunity is immense. Why? Because the gap between the customer's expectation and what BFSI organizations are able to deliver, that gap is widening. So as that gap widens, the opportunity obviously gets bigger, right? So recently what we did a digital trends report specifically with BFSI industries, and we asked across the country, what is that you are seeing in the industry post-pandemic? What digital trends are actually there to actually watch out for? And clearly, we see across banking, financial services, right, insurance, three core themes which are actually evolving in the Indian consumer segment, right? First and foremost, in the 12 to 24 months, the utilization of the digital channels and experiences have exploded, right? So utilization is all-time high across anything that is digital, self-serve, experience, onboarding, engagement, service, whatever you call it, right? That's a common theme, right? Number two is also interesting, which is the amount of new customers that is digitally acquired, in this last 24 months is really, really huge, right? So a lot of acquisition and engagement now primarily happens in the digital medium, right? Where, keeping up with the experience is a challenge by itself. And third, and probably the most important aspect is the journeys have changed. The models have changed, right? What used to actually work before in terms of expectations versus this plethora of new customers coming in and experiencing your digital offerings by BFSI customers, that has changed. That means the behavior has changed. So old wine will not work in a new bottle, right? And this trend is, as I talk to these leaders in this particular industry, they see this trend to actually continue. Actually, in fact, if I can quote the research, 86% of them said, hey, this is going to continue in the foreseeable future, right? So, it's important that we are all aware of this exceeding customer expectations in all phases that we get to actually, interact with them, right? And it is time to introspect as leaders in this industry that do I have the right ecosystem? Do I have the right technological platform? Do I have the right talent? Do I have the right process and systems in place to actually to cater to this? The funny thing about experience is that, unfortunately, though we are actually talking about BFSI, you get easily compared with every other industry because it's all about how you are making a customer feel, which can be done by an e-commerce platform or a OTT service and stuff like that. So it's important that all in the BFSI industry understand that the level playing field has changed. A lot of new players are into the same field, wherein which it's important to actually deliver to this particular expectations. In India specifically, this gap is bigger compared to other developed nations, wherein customer expects very, very high out of digital experiences, and the ability to deliver those delightful customer experience we lack, right? So as a parting thought, as organizations, we all should focus on number one, agility, right? How fast can I actually go ahead and make changes in my systems, in my interactions, in my experience, and so on and so forth? How fast can I roll out a new system, revamp something, so on and so forth? Second is innovation. We are living in a world where today's innovation is kind of yesterday's old news. So it's important that all of us stay innovated in this particular space to actually compete against each other. Collaboration, super duper important. How you make your employees feel is how you actually how they would make your customers feel, which is really, really important. And last but not but the least, talent and diversity as well, right?
Fantastic. Thanks, Vishak. Great insights. I mean, it completely resonates. And I was recently speaking to one of the leaders in the insurance industry, and they talked about having about 60% of all service interactions now being done by bots. Or that's the intention, that's the aim they have in mind. That's what organizations are looking at, and it's amazing because both Microsoft and Adobe work together in number of scenarios where we try and curate these journeys across sales, service, which are, like you mentioned, completely getting reimagined. Just following up on that, and when you look at the different touch points you have in banking and insurance and generally in financial institutions, for sales, service, it's so diverse, it's across so many points. How do you look at utilizing technology and what we have now with the cloud, with AI, ML, to help improve those interactions at those points?
Yeah, sure. So, in my opinion, organization should factor three important areas if they want to stay on top of the innovation agenda. Number one is the actual customer data management and activation in real time, right? It's important having data, of course, everybody has lots of it, right? But what insight do you derive out of it? And how real time can you be in delivering that experience is one of the major area where organizations should focus and innovate. And of course, as Adobe and Microsoft together, we can deliver on that particular promise, right? The second one is about individualization or personalization at scale, right? So organizations, BFSI organizations should put emphasis and relook at their content strategy as well as collaboration strategy within the organization, right? Using and abusing gets done a lot when it comes to content, but how are you managing that better? How are you delivering that to new age channels, right? So, let's say immersive experiences and stuff like that. It's really important to stay on top of that particular agenda. The third and the last point when it comes to where we can help together as Microsoft and Adobe is related to the third point, which I mentioned before, which is everybody has said, oh, journeys have changed. Our past campaigns are actually not working. Why? Because this new set of customers whom you have acquired in this particular period, they have different expectations, right? So the omni-channel journeys, that's where you combine both the data as well as the content together to deliver that right experience at the right time in the right channel. That's really, really important, right? I'll give you an example. So one of the leading retail banks whom we work with, of course, together as Microsoft and Adobe, have come to us with a problem of saying that, hey, you know what, we have this nice and ready-made offers, right? Next best offers, the models are actually running and stuff like that. Of course, does the customer really care about that? Not really. What they care about am I giving the right offer at the right time, right? Probably the system has calculated this sometimes before. So it's important to combine both the intelligence as well as the context, which is the real-time context, to decide which one to actually present to the customer to increase my conversion. So we work with this large retail bank in revamping their entire campaign management, offer management strategy, thanks to Microsoft in partnering with us when it comes to delivering that delightful experiences with all the data powerhouse that you bring onto the table, and Adobe adding a lot of value in that real-time journey management. It's very interesting. A lot might be wondering from our chat, what is this guy talking about? Does that all work? I can assure you it works. This particular bank, after moving on to this Adobe and Microsoft stack, have realized their investment in just 6 months, right? And the biggest testimonial from them is that, hey, you know what? We can actually now get actionable insights rather than what is happening inside. So previously they used to have this, oh, this is the state of affairs, right? This is how the dashboard looks like. This is how we did last week, last month. Two, this is where we should focus next week. This is where we should focus January, February, March, right? That actionable insight beforehand to actually design those campaigns and individualize those particular campaigns. As I said, 6 months, it paid off by itself, both Microsoft and Adobe examples. And these journeys have also increased the customer satisfaction, right? Another last example I would like to quote here is, it's not just about, we may think that customer experience is always about outbound messaging and what you actually give out to them. Not really. It is actually very important when inbound interactions happens as well. So in this particular case, an inbound call center interactions, they could actually stitch together the data between multiple channels to understand what is causing a lot of people to call the call center for, let's say, for example, password change. What is the reason? Why are they dropping off on another channel and they're coming to a costlier channel, such as a call center, right? So such insights can be immediately created out within a minute, thanks to the technology of Adobe as well as Microsoft enabling them to do so. I hope these examples made sense.
Oh, absolutely, Vishak. Wonderful examples. I think they landed the value and how it all comes together. This is like you mentioned, multiple technologies playing together to create those experiences, getting those insights. And I think the key point, Vishak, you touched upon that a couple of times in your reply which you just made, is data. I mean, how do you actually harness the power of data? And Microsoft today works with some of the largest FSI organizations in terms of creating those data lakes and warehouses, and then working with organizations like Adobe to get intelligence for customer experience and creating those journeys. So it's a phenomenal partnership. What we do with Dynamics 365 and Adobe, plus Azure, AI, ML, all of that coming together. It's magic, like you just described for a couple of our customers. So it's a wonderful illustration. Probably one last question from my side, where I probably want to get some thoughts from you, Vishak, is around, with this whole infusion of digital, the explosion of number of customers, as you mentioned, it's unprecedented level of, channels they're dealing with, number of customers who are coming in digitally. Security and risk is always something which FSI organizations are worried about. I'd want to probably get your thoughts on, how does Adobe look at that as you create the future in terms of customer experience and secure customer experience?
Yeah, so security, compliance, and trust, definitely, right? Especially in BFSI, is of paramount importance. That's not a discussion, right? The thing is, the customer trust is what the element, that's the unsaid element in this risk and fraud and compliance aspect, which is the trust of the customer is earned and broken also with every customer experience, right? So there is a reason why somebody is tapping on that allow, right? There is a reason why somebody is saying that yes, send me or don't send me, or whatever that aspect is. That's a currency which the customer is paying our organization, BFSI organization, in advance, and we are at that depth of that particular customer to actually deliver that particular trust with that particular data, right? So what we do, right, Adobe and Microsoft coming together takes off a lot of checklist items in delivering this trust to the customer via data security, privacy, and stuff. See, I just want to actually bring a different perspective here as well, which is in-person engagement, it's not just always digital, right? So in-person engagement always has a higher equity of earning customer trust, right? That smile, you walk into a branch, you see an agent, right? So that trust is actually in there. In digital experiences, the trust is kind of hidden. So I just press that button, I've said do that. So the stakes are high on our side to actually adhere to data privacy standards and look at the risks and stuff like that, right? This needs tremendous change in organizational culture, as well as how we define what to do, whom and what to do with, who needs to actually handle customer data, and what's the responsibility of the organizational teams when it comes to handling the customer data, right? The same survey that I mentioned in the beginning, right? The digital trends report, almost 75% of the brands who actually collect the data, also feels that the customer has this doubt in their mind ki, will it is for my benefit, or is it for the bank's benefit, or is it for the insurance company's benefit that they are collecting this particular data, right? We work with, again, one of the leading largest banks in India, of course, with our experience platform, with the help of Microsoft, to kind of centralize this data governance so that we have very clear defined roles, because of course we need to actually make sure that we're always compliant and it is actually future forward as well, considering the regulatory importance that we have in the industry, right? So what we did there specifically was that we created two sets of internal employees saying that, hey, these are the data custodians, you are the custodians of this data, and here are the data consumers within the organization. What are their levels? Which segment can I access where? For example, a customer's date of birth is not needed by a specific team of customer service for whatever reason. So can I label it and say that's actually not, that's governed well within the organization, right? So that we avoid any potential penalties, and these things are of paramount importance considering the India Data Protection Bills, which is on the anvil. That organization should be ready in defining these classifications, ensuring the systems are in place, and making sure that customer trust is always paid forward. Shortcut, trust on technology leaders like Adobe and Microsoft to do a lot of that stuff to take away, as I said, from your checklist.
Thanks. So well said, Vishak. Especially the point you made about every click they do in a digital journey, creates trust or takes away trust. So I mean, so important that we curate it, the right way, both at the customer and our end as we do this together. I just loved the conversation we had, Vishak. It was wonderful, getting your thoughts on how do we create differentiated customer experience for our customers and then taking it forward to their constituency. So this was wonderful talking to you, and thanks for this once again.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you so much for the partnership.
Thank you so much for the partnership. Thanks so much.